Hello everybody. Today we are going to discuss about translation. Translation is the process of transferring meaning from one language into another language while preserving the original sense, tone and context as much as possible. There is a two definition by linguists. First, J.C. Catford. He is discussing translation is the replacement of textual material in one language, could be source language, by equivalent textual material in another language, could be target language. Second one is Eugene Nida, who's discussing translation consists in reproducing in another receptor language that closest natural equivalent of the source language message. First in terms of meaning and secondly in terms of style. In literature we find out there are three types of translation. First is literal translation, second is free translation, third is dynamic functional translation. Literal translation is a word for word translation, keeping the original structure as much as possible. Free translation is focus on meaning rather than exact words, and translator has freedom to express ideas naturally. Dynamic functional translation is in a way the same effect or response on the reader as the original text, not just the words. And now there is a main concept in translation we will discuss here are source text, target text, foreignization, domestication, equivalence, scopus theory, kinds of translations. Source text is the text a translator is given to translate into another language. In other words, like the original text or the text you start with. The target text is a translation of the source text. You can say in other words like the final text or the text you end up with. Foreignization, this strategy is about original culture, words or styles of the source language. It may feel foreign to the readers but preserve the original flavor. For example, keeping words like namaste or karma in English translation, it called foreignization. Domestication is that kind of strategy which makes text familiar and easy for the target audience by adapting cultural element. For example, replacing namaste with hello. This both term has been popularized by Lawrence Venuti. So here foreignization and domestication are two opposite translation strategies, and it explains how translator handles cultural differences. Foreignization keeps the original source cultural visible and slightly foreign to the reader, but domestication adapts the text to the target culture, making it familiar and easy to understand. Equivalence in translation studies refers to the relationship between the source text and the target text, where the translator tries to convey the same meaning, effect, or function in another language. There is a two types of key in equivalence. First is formal equivalence and second one is dynamic equivalence. Formal equivalence focuses on the form and content of the original text with clause and word based translation. Dynamic equivalence focuses on the effect on the reader, making the translation natural and meaningful. And both this concept equivalence has been developed by Eugene Nida. What is the scopus theory? Scopus theory is a translation theory which says that the purpose of translation decides how the text should be translated. It was developed by Hans J. Vermeer. Scopus theory is a functional approach towards translation which emphasizes that the purpose of translation determines the method and strategies used by the translator. So, according to this theory, we see translation is not judged by how closely it follows the original text word for word, but how effectively it fulfills its intended functions for the target audience. So that means the translator has the freedom to adapt, modify, reconstruct, or the text to suit culture, social and communicative needs. So it making the target text more relevant in the meaningful in its new context. There are kinds of translation has been discussed by Roman Jacobson. One is intralingual translation, second is interlingual translation, third is intersemiotic translations. So intralingual translation is that translation within the same language, rewording or paraphrasing. For example, explaining a difficult English text in simple English is called intralingual translation. Second is interlingual translation, is translation from one language to another, actual translation. For example, Hindi to English. Intersemiotic translation is that translation from verbal language to non-verbal forms. For example, novel or fiction into films, poem into paintings. So this is kind of translation is called intersemiotic translation, which has been given by Roman Jacobson. Thank you. Follow for more.